Well, this video is a day late, but as is now annual tradition, it is time for my new Pride piece and to kick off World Watercolor Month for 2025. In past videos for this series, we've celebrated the traditional pride, bi, lesbian, trans, arrow, and ace flags. This year, I am excited to be adding the non-binary flag. Before I go into more detail about the artwork, let me first share a little bit more about World Watercolor Month. For those who haven't heard about it, World Watercolor Month was founded by Charlie O'Shields at Doodlewash. Every July, the online community comes together to celebrate our favorite medium. There's a 31-day challenge if you'd like to participate with the official prompts, but it is not required to enjoy the celebration. Any artwork that you upload to social media during the month of July can be tagged with World Watercolor Month and World Watercolor Month 2025 to share your creations with others. In addition to sharing our passion with each other, another huge component of World Watercolor Month is raising awareness and funds for children's art programs. Every year, World Watercolor Month raises funds for the International Child Art Foundation. Many watercolor artists have donated artwork to the World Watercolor Month shop, where 100% of profits from these limited edition zipper pouches and mugs are donated to ICAF. You'll likely see many familiar names in the shop, including my own, along with general WWM merch. Be sure to check out the shop soon though, as it is only open through July 31st, and don't forget to tag all of your watercolor pieces on social media this month with those hashtags. Links for the prompts in the shop are of course in this video's description. Coming back to the artwork, this piece is the newest addition to my Watercolor Animals Pride series. It uses the colors of the non-binary flag, which was designed in 2014 by Kai Rowan, and includes the colors of yellow, white, purple, and black. I'll explain what each color represents after a little bit more information about gender identity. As we touched on in 2022 with my trans lion piece, gender is a human construct. I'm going to guess that most people watching this video live in societies with two genders, men, who are generally associated with the male biological sex, and women who are generally associated with the female biological sex. However, there are many cultures throughout the world that recognize more than two genders. I always get questions about this, so there is a link in the description to a map from PBS to learn more about cultures that recognize more than two genders. The simplest definition of non-binary is not restricted to two parts. However, more commonly today, non-binary is used to describe a gender expression that doesn't fit into our conventional gender binary. It encompasses a wide range of gender identities that may include those who identify as not entirely male or female, a mix of male and female, someone who is neither male nor female, or someone who has a fluctuating gender identity. You may have come across some other terms that can describe members of the LGBTQIA+ community that sound similar or may be confused with non-binary people. As always, these videos aim to be both for members of the queer community to feel seen and represented, as well as share information with people who are not in the queer community but want to learn more about it. I've done my best to put together a little bit of a quick guide of sorts for those who are unfamiliar. I sincerely hope that these next points are as accurately and respectful as possible, since I myself do not identify as a genderqueer person. If you identify with any of these queer communities and I get anything wrong, please let us know in the comments below so that we aren't spreading any misinformation. Someone who is cisgender identifies with the sex that they were assigned at birth. For example, I was assigned female at birth and I identify as a female or a woman. This is the societal norm, and I am considered cisgender. Cisgender is not a slur, despite what some anti-LGBTQIA individuals believe. Someone who is transgender does not identify with the sex that they were assigned at birth. Someone who is non-binary typically does not identify with their gender as determined by the conventional gender roles, which may or may not align with the sex that they were assigned at birth. Non-binary people often choose to use alternate pronouns instead of he, him, his, or she, her, hers. The singular they, them, theirs is most common, but some may use others such as, but not limited to, they, them, their, or fey, fair, fairs. A non-binary person may be comfortable using multiple sets of pronouns such as they, them, and she, her interchangeably, but it is kindest to ask them for their preferences. Transmasc refers to a person who is assigned female at birth but whose gender identity is in some way aligned with or characterized by masculinity. Transfemme refers to a person assigned male at birth but whose gender identity is in some way aligned with or characterized by femininity. Someone who is agender does not identify as having any gender. Someone who is gender fluid does not identify with having a single fixed gender, and there is a unique gender fluid pride flag. Finally, someone who is genderqueer doesn't identify with having a conventional binary gender. Some people use this term interchangeably with non-binary, while others might feel more comfortable with identifying as one or the other. There is also a unique genderqueer pride flag. So in summary, a non-binary person may also identify as transgender, transmasc, transfemme, agender, genderqueer, genderfluid, or none of the above. The labels a person chooses are unique to that individual. There is some controversy, and I'm using air quotes here, over people being able to use the singular they, them as singular pronouns. The argument against non-binary or genderqueer people using they, them is that they, them should be reserved for plural pronouns to refer to multiple people at once. However, we already use they, them as singular pronouns in English, such as someone left their book on the table. The use of the singular they, them has been used in English since the 14th century, so I gotta say that argument is pretty weak, guys. It's not strong. Please just refer to people in a way that makes them comfortable. There doesn't have to be any animosity or stubbornness involved in making this adjustment as people become more comfortable while living their authentic selves. Since gender is a human construct, it can be difficult to display non-binary genders respectfully in artwork using animals. However, there are many animals that display Gynandromorphism, which you might also know as genetic chimeras. These traits are easiest to recognize in species that display sexual dimorphism, meaning that males and females look different from each other, such as lobsters, cardinals, and in the case of this artwork, butterflies. This painting is loosely based on mocker swallowtail butterflies. Patterns on these mocker swallowtails can vary by subspecies, but in the references that I used, the females were primarily brown, orange, and white with rounded hind wings, whereas the males are cream and black with starker patterns and tails on their hind wings. I translated these butterflies' patterns into the colors of the non-binary flag using pure yellow, PY154, Quinacridone purple, PV55, and Payne's gray, all from Schmincke, as well as the white of the paper. On the non-binary flag, the yellow represents people that are outside of the gender binary. White represents people with multiple genders. The purple, a mixture of blue and pink, represents those who identify as both male and female, and black represents people without gender. For that central butterfly, you can see there's female traits on the left side of the body and male traits on the right. But as we talked about before, non-binary people may feel that they exist outside of the male-female binary. It was really important to me to translate to the best of my ability using these butterflies as muses, other representations besides one half of the body being female and the other half male. For that reason, the other butterflies in this piece have various combinations of physical traits and colors. For example, the butterfly in the upper left corner has a hind wing that has the shape of a male butterfly, but the colors of the females. And in the lower right-hand corner, that butterfly has one hind wing that is the shape and color of a female butterfly's wing, but I brought in some of the black spots from the male's wing to represent a different ratio of those traits. Some of the wings have colorations that were not part of the original references, and that was because I wanted to make sure that there was some visual identification of neither gender being involved. Now, depending on how familiar you are with my work, you may know that insects are not my forte in watercolors, so I ended up finishing off this piece with colored pencils for the details. I used Prismacolor Premiers in the colors white, canary yellow, violet, and black. Unfortunately, I did end up botching the center butterfly's left wing pretty badly during this stage, so I did clean it up digitally afterwards. I also haven't shown much of the painting process for the antennae and legs, and that is because my hands were shaking really bad that day and they ended up thicker than I wanted them to. So I also cleaned those up digitally, and I'm much happier with the final result that you'll see at the end of the video. As much fun as I had painting this in watercolors, I kind of have another version that's been fluttering around my head. Pun intended. So I'm considering doing a second version of this piece using either mixed media or doing it digitally, but I would love to hear what you think. Do you like this version? Would you like to see a mixed media attempt? For now, you can find sticker pre-orders in my Etsy shop, and my Redbubble Pride collection will be updated once I decide on a final version. Until then, you can find the rest of my Pride collection in the link in the description. Thank you all so much for watching, for keeping the comment section kind and inclusive, and to all my patrons for helping keep this channel going. I couldn't do this without you. Until next time, my friends, happy painting, happy belated Pride, and happy World Watercolor Month.